All right, welcome everybody. We're going to talk about different bakeware, cookware material today. As you know, there's everything in the world under the sun for materials. I mean, we've got copper, aluminum, stainless, cast iron, tin, you name it. There's different reasons, of course, why we use different cookware. So we're just going to go through some of the most common ones today, talk a little bit about them, when you're going to use them, when you would maybe not want to use them, because not every pan is good for every application, and just give you a little orientation so it's something you can refer to. Best cookware in terms of its ability to transfer heat is copper. I mean, copper is great. So what we got here is a nice heavy copper pan. You see this a lot in sugar work because you put this on a flame, it's going to heat up very, very quickly and get that energy right into your product. The problem with copper, as you know, as you've read, is copper reacts with food, and actually it discolors. I purposely did not clean this pan. It's kind of green in the bottom there, just like something that sits in your yard and discolors. It happens. This got put away wet and it discolored a little bit, so this would actually need to be cleaned and scrubbed with appropriate material before we were going to cook in this. But again, sugar work is when you would use this, and if you use anything like a high acid, you wouldn't want to cook tomato sauce. It's actually going to etch this away, and it's going to get the copper ions into what you're working on. Sometimes you will also, if you're going to whisk something, the copper can help, depending on what you're running, what you're using, can help make a nice meringue. So that's copper again. Real heavy, real thick, great conductor for heat. So let's just set this out of the way. Next most common material we see, of course, is aluminum. Very, very inexpensive. That's actually what I didn't mention about the copper, of course, is copper's expensive. Aluminum's very, very cheap. This one's pretty sturdy. It's doesn't bend well. I mean, it doesn't bend easily. It's double layered. It's got a little air gap in there. Very common material. Aluminum is a pretty good conductor of heat, but only about half as good as copper. Now, aluminum is another metal that reacts with food. So if I have an aluminum pan on the stove, I'm not going to want to cook something with high acid again. Tomato is the thing I always talk about with high acid. Don't cook tomato sauce in copper or aluminum, things like that. Most of the chefs on campus, we use sheet pans all the time. Usually put a silicone paper on this. Keeps it's sanitary, keeps it from discoloring any food, and some people, there's been some folks talking a little bit about, okay, there's this aluminum link to Alzheimer's. It's been disproven many times, but a lot of people still don't like aluminum touching their food, so that's another reason to put the silicone mats on here. Again, very inexpensive, very, very common. Next material we've got, stainless steel. This is the most common element that we use in the bake shop, especially on the stove. Stainless steel doesn't react with food. I mean, you can cook pretty well anything in stainless steel. Tomatoes, no big deal. Whatever you want, meat, sugar, whatever. Again, there's always a downside. Stainless steel, not a good conductor of heat at all. It's actually pretty poor. So what they do, and what this pan does, this is Farberware for those that are interested. I have been asked before, well, chef, what kind of cookware do you use at home? I grew up on Farberware. This is what my mom used, so this is what I use. Matter of fact, I think she actually gave me this set. So, but back on point, stainless steel, the way they overcome the fact that stainless steel is not a good conductor of heat is they will actually put aluminum inside this, so that between an outer and an inner layer of stainless steel, it's actually aluminum in the middle, especially in the bottom. That helps get the energy from the element on the bottom, or if we're in an oven, the hot air, the element on the bottom and the top, helps get through the material by having that layer of aluminum in there. Conducts the heat much better. Stainless steel, of course, said it before, I'll say it again, doesn't react with food, cleans very, very well. There are a lot of different quality levels in stainless steel though, but pretty well you don't go wrong with stainless steel. Next one we're going to talk about, you don't see this one a lot in the bake shop, is cast iron. What do I use this for? I can do cookies at a campfire. I can do cornbread. Cast iron, very, very heavy. It does react with food. So again, something you're not going to want to cook a lot of acid in, tomato sauce again. It does rust. That's the issue with cast iron is if I, just put this in water and I forget about it, or if I, scrub it out and I let it air dry, it's going to rust on me pretty quickly. And then you have to go through a whole process of having to season it. What's nice now is anytime you buy cast iron, it's pre-seasoned. You don't have to worry about this whole big process of, having to put shortening on it and cook it and bake it and worry about it. It's pretty much only one company in the U.S. that makes cast iron anymore, and it's all pre-seasoned. So I like these little dainty ones. Again, do individual cookies, cornbread. They're kind of fun. That's really where you see it in a bake shop. You don't really see it for much else beyond that. Tin. Tin is very, very thin, very flexible. You get these nice little flutes here, so you can make little tarts that are very interesting shapes. Tin is traditional French cookware. This is what they use a lot of. It's very inexpensive. Inexpensive, variety of shapes. It will, again, like the cast iron we were just talking about, it will rust if we wash it and let it air dry. So it's another thing in the bake shop you have to be a little bit careful of, making sure that you dry it well. But they're inexpensive, pretty good conductor of heat, as most metals are, except stainless steel. Speaking of stainless steel, one thing I forgot to tell you is copper, aluminum, iron, tin, all these things, we can actually go dig a hole in the ground and find that material. It's a naturally occurring material. You can't dig a hole and find stainless steel. This is a man-made material. So just a little point of trivia. Next one we're going to talk about, ceramic, glass, porcelain. They're all kind of in the same vein. Very, very slow cooking material. It's a very poor conductor of heat. Everything we've talked about so far has been metal. Now we're switching over to non-metals. Ceramic. Where do we see this? Soufflés, water baths. If we're going to do a creme brulee or something we want to cook very, very slowly, this is a product of choice. Very, very smooth, doesn't react with anything, easy to clean. They are fragile though, so if you do drop one, it's gonna break on you. Variety of sizes, little small creme brulee ones. This is more of like a big soup type bowl or a chili bowl. Very, very flexible. You can do a lot of things. Again, the key here, slow cooking. So we've talked about the main ones here, but pretty well any of these we can now talk about adding a nonstick coating, Teflon. So what I've got here is, this is an aluminum pan, but wait a minute, chef, it's dark. This was light, our sheet pan. This is dark. How can it be the same? Well, this is anodized. What they've done, and we can look at this one as well, by anodizing it, you're chemically changing the properties of the aluminum. You make this not react with food quite so much. So you'll see that a lot. This is Calphalon, if you're interested. Nice and heavy, transfers heat very well, and by anodizing the aluminum, it makes it a little more flexible and a little more friendly. I can actually cook some tomato-based products in here without having to worry about it a whole lot. So any product, so we've got anodized aluminum. We've got anodized aluminum with a Teflon coating. Non-stick works great if I'm making eggs, omelets, things like that. This is pretty much an omelet pan. Don't want to put Teflon under a broiler or a salamander. You want to keep extreme direct heat off of this, but stovetop use, great. I've actually got here a rather inexpensive pan that's got a little bit of a Teflon coating on it to help get things out of this bread pan, this loaf pan. For Teflon, one of the biggest indicators of quality, price and quality, is the thickness and the durability of the Teflon. If you've heard my lecture before on this subject, Teflon is not good for you. If you have a damaged pan, throw it away. So here I've got a lower quality pan. We used to use this for camping because it's nice and light, but you can see it's got some damage on it. So anytime I can see through the Teflon, I'm not going to want to actually cook on this. It still works, but you run the risk of that Teflon coating coming off into your food, and again, it's not something you want to consume. It's actually pretty toxic. So, cheap pan, light, thin coating. More expensive pan, heavier, much thicker gauge, heavier coating, more durable. So, product of choice, but you pay for it. But wait a minute, it lasts longer, so it's a trade-off. All right, last one we're going to talk about is silicone. I'll grab this big muffin pan over here. Silicone is flexible. You can pretty much get these in any shape you want. Cake pans, loaf pans, cupcakes, the sill plats that we pour sugar on, that's silicone. Doesn't react with food. It's not a very good conductor of heat, so it's helps things cook slowly. So if we drop cupcake wrappers in here, put some batter in here, it's going to cook slow. Slow is usually good to avoid over browning. Flexible, you can just kind of hose these off. They're pretty much non-stick. Again, with the sill plats, we can actually pour hot sugar on it, and it comes right off. So very, very versatile, but these can be expensive. You can, every shape under the sun, but then you have to buy every shape under the sun, so it gets a little expensive. So that's pretty much the overview of materials. We went through copper, expensive, reacts with food, use it in sugar work. Aluminum, inexpensive, not a good conductor of heat, but very, very commonly used. It's cheap. Stainless steel, very commonly used, not a good conductor of heat. They overcome that with an aluminum layer in the middle. A lot of stovetop cooktop usage. Doesn't react with anything. Cast iron, don't see this much in the bake shop. Maybe see it at home a lot. Rustic type of products, cornbread. Tin, French cookware, multitude of shapes, not quite as many as you can get with silicone, but very, very flexible, will react with food, have to watch out for rust on this. Non-stick coatings, Teflon, quality is key here. You pay for what you get. If it's damaged, get rid of it. We skipped our porcelain. Slow cooking, doesn't react with anything under the sun. Great for souffles, creme brulee, things of that nature. Cheesecake. And finally, silicone, very, very flexible, whatever shape you want. It's non-stick, works out great. So now you've got a little knowledge of what you're going to find in the bake shop and why we would use it. Thanks for joining us.